So Jada Pinkett Smith lectures Eazy-E. Coming right up. What's up, y'all? Welcome back to Common Sense Logic Reason. And as always, I wanted to say thank y'all for joining me today. So, as we know, Jada Pinkett Smith is a black feminist, one of these black females who believe that black women are just downtrodden and dehumanized in America. They're the worst they'll be just treated worse than anybody in America. And of course, they always repeat that line from Malcolm X that black women are the most disrespected and most unprotected women in America, people in America. Of course, they never elaborate on what he meant when he said that in the 1960s. 60-something years ago. But it appears that Jada Pinkett Smith has always been his way. She's always had that ideology. In 1992, she was on a BET panel with the late Eazy-E, Eric Wright, and she basically lectured him about his lyrics against black females or black women.
I was telling him that before I met him today, I would have thought that he was a woman hater because of his music that he writes, and that he, owning his own record company, can make a change starting from there within his community to uplift us. You know what I'm saying? When I listen to his music, I want to feel good about myself. I want to feel good about my people. And I said, Eric, you have the power to do that.
But so Eric, how are you going to, let's let Eric address this. Eric, are you going to do that? Will this change? Has this changed the way you think about the music and about the way you write?
Yes.
In what way?
To a certain point.
You got now a young sister here in your face.
In your face.
In your face. Who is saying, I want to see a change. I want to know really what you can do about it.
Say nice things.
I do say nice things about sisters.
To me. But you got to say it
On
the record where me being a young sister, I told Eric, I said, I cannot listen to your music and feel good about myself. Now come on.
Now, NWA basically received a lot of criticism of their lyrics and the message that they were pushing. And I would say that I will slightly agree with that. But NWA didn't start gangs. Okay, they did not start gang culture. They were rapping about what existed, the life that they were living. Okay, they didn't start the Bloods and the Crips. This was happening before NWA. Like I said, all they did was just rap about what they saw living in Compton, California, South Central California. Okay? Now, as I said, NWA did play into spreading that culture. But if you joined gangs and got in that lifestyle because what you heard in the rap song, you're an idiot. And I noticed that that message he had the least amount of influence in the places where he had the most amount of parenting. I remember growing up back in the day, and in 1988 when Straight Outta Compton came out, I was a sophomore in high school. So I remember it, and I remember the influence it had, but I wasn't going to join no gang because I heard no rap song, because I heard NWA. Anyway, I have two problems with this narrative that Jada Pinkett Smith has. My first problem is that she complained about his lyrics calling black women bees and hoes, but for some reason they never addressed the bees and hoes who are acting in that way. If you complain about his lyrics talking about these type of women, but you don't complain about these women from exhibiting that behavior. If these women weren't acting in that way, he wouldn't be saying it. Just like the gang culture, when he talks about women are bees and hoes, he's talking about the culture that he lived. So apparently these women are out there doing that. So why don't they never address the women who are acting this way? It's kind of like black folks who would say Carnival Cruise Line is quote unquote racist against black people because they don't allow certain behavior that you often see going on with black people. Or they're starting to limit it. And the reason they never address the reason why Carnival Cruise Line is starting to do that, like banning rap music, is because black people have been on those cruise lines ghettoing it up, fighting on the cruise ship. I mean, you tell me that black folks, specifically black females, can't go places without fighting every damn where? So this is why Carnival Cruise Line is starting to address this because they're just been ghettoing it up. Why can we not stop that behavior? Okay? Don't get mad at Carnival Cruise Line. Get mad at the black people who exhibiting that behavior. Whereas likewise with these women. Address the women who exhibiting the behavior that Eazy-E was rapping about. The same thing that the red pill community is talking about. Now my second problem, this is a major problem, is where was Jada Pinkett Smith when we saw the black men ain't shit narrative that's been prevalent in this country? And as far back as I can remember, it started in the late 80s, early 90s, and this was 92. So this was the beginning of what I really saw it started happening. And it really spread when black women went on these daytime shows, you know, Phil Donahue, Sally Jessel Raphael, Ricky Lake, you know, Oprah. They on these shows talking about how, you know, the quote unquote tearing down black men. With this whole black men don't take care of their kids, black men don't have jobs. And me personally, I was never a hit dog because I didn't have any kids back then in 92. And when I did have kids, I took care of my children. And I had jobs. So I was never a hit dog, but we saw this. The problem though that I have is the hypocrisy of her wanting to lecture Eazy-E, the late Eazy-E, over his lyrics and quote unquote demeaning and dehumanizing black women, but you ain't got nothing to say but all this dehumanizing of black men. The whole black men ain't shit narrative that's been prevalent, I hear it actually was more prevalent before the late 80s, early 90s, but that's what I can remember. So all of this time we've seen the black men ain't shit narrative and it's still out here. But ever since men have gotten a voice, as Kevin Samuels said, ever since men have gotten a voice on social media and is giving their views upon black women, now you're tearing down black women, but they've been tearing down black men and she had nothing to say. So honestly, she had no room to lecture anybody. And as we can see, you know, this is the same woman who were quote unquote involved in entanglements with her son's friend. So like I said, she has no room to lecture anybody. And I hear that Will Smith is divorcing her, and to that I say good for him. Whatever it costs you, look, you get away from her, woman, because she's not good for you. But ain't no way in the world I'm gonna sit up here and let this woman lecture to me about some quote unquote demeaning black women when we've had this tearing down and demeaning of black men for all these years and they had nothing to say about it. BS. Anyway, if I, you know, like I say, this is hindsight back in 1992. So we can't really go back, but in today's world, I'm not listening to anything she has to say to anybody about any damn lyrics demeaning black women, especially if black women out here are doing that. No more than I can get mad at anyone for saying that black men are violent when black men are violent. Even though I'm not out here exhibiting the violence and most black men aren't, but unfortunately there's a lot of black men who are. So I can't get mad at what people say that. I gotta get mad at the black people, the black males who are out here violent, who are responsible for the fact that we are 13% of the population and responsible for majority of the murders and like 60% of all violent crime. I can't get mad at the people who are saying this. I need to get mad at the people who are doing it and participating, who creating this. Anyway, like I said, that's my 2 cents on this. And I'm not listening to any of these black feminists telling me a damn thing about quote unquote demeaning of black women until we start addressing all this demeaning of black men. Anyway, y'all, as always, until next time.